Welcome to the Handcrafted Podcast, the business of making things. I'm Paul, founder of Philadelphia Table Company and the Handcrafted Network, and I believe great craftsmanship deserves great business strategy. This podcast is for makers who want to build not just great products, but a thriving business. Each episode will dive into the mindset, systems, and skills that turn craft into success. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Handcrafted Podcast. We have a special office hours episode here. Thank you so much for all of those who submitted questions. If you would like to submit a question for an upcoming office hours episode, please email me, paul@thehandcraftednetwork.com. I have 4 questions that I'm going to answer. But first, this podcast is brought to you by the Handcrafted Network. The Handcrafted Network is an online community of woodworkers, professional and semi-professional woodworkers who are working together to grow our businesses. We just launched a brand new thing in the group. There's been a lot of requests for this. So we always had kind of a website audit thing. So you could you could post your website and you can get my marketing guy, Jim, who does Philadelphia Table Company. He'll do a website audit for you. So he'll check out your website. He'll give you a Loom video, tell you what to fix, all of that sort of stuff. But Jim actually just created a best practices sheet. So for those of you guys who don't have a website yet, or you're trying to make a new website or something along those lines, he just created a sheet, sort of a one sheet summarizing all of the stuff that he always tells everybody in those audits. The audits still do exist. We call it Roast My Site, but now he has a one-page sheet that is going to be super helpful for those of you guys. And I've talked to a few this week who are launching a new website and want to optimize that page. And with that said, I got a chance to talk to a bunch of, a handful of listeners who joined the community this week. Really, really great conversations. Got to talk in depth about their business, what their goals are, all of that stuff, and it's been really great. So if you're interested in joining the group, if you're interested in signing up, if you're interested in growing your business, if you're interested in being part of a collaborative environment with other people who are sort of doing the same sort of thing as you, there is a link to sign up in the show notes below. You can also send me an email, paul@thehandcraftednetwork.com, if you have any other questions about it. All right, let's jump into the podcast. First question is, on Instagram, questions about on Instagram, currently on my custom lampshade page. So this person, and this is really great to see that there are people who are not just woodworkers on here. So I think this is great and very helpful for a bunch of people. I'm following interior designers, fabric makers, a few other makers that are adjacent to what I do, furniture makers, antique dealers, lamp makers, but not directly following other lampshade makers. My thinking in that is that I am hoping to go after my target clients who are the interior designers and those higher end consumers that may follow them. Do you think that is a good approach? Or I didn't know if you had insights into how the IG algorithm worked and if you thought it might attract more clients all around if I also followed other lampshade makers. I don't want to give my potential clients to other lampshade makers, but maybe there's a secret web that if I connect to them, their followers might also see my work. What are your insights on that? All right, so kind of a fun thing that happened to me this past week that's pretty relevant to this, actually, is I saw somebody that I hadn't really seen in a little bit, and they were like, oh, wow, Paul, you're really like stepping up your Instagram game. You've been posting a lot more lately. And I was like, no, I've always consistently posted, for the past 3 years at least. And they're like, oh, I guess maybe it's just because like you've been engaging with me more. So what that goes to show me is that if you are engaging within the system, the Instagram system, you're able to, I think it starts to show your stuff to those people. So I think it depends on who you're engaging with. So not just following these people is what's important, but it's engaging with them. It's messaging them. It's liking their comments. It's their content, commenting on the things, like sending them clap emojis and all of that sort of stuff, I think is a big part of it, because what happens is it starts to associate you with those people and will start showing your content to those kind of people. So I think that that's a really helpful way to do it. The other thing too is seeing who other lampshade makers follow, I think is always helpful. Of course, I follow other woodworkers just as like inspiration kind of thing, but that's not like the meat and potatoes of like what my followers are. The people that I follow are a lot of people, like you said, like kind of like adjacent kind of things. So what I do is I really like to engage with those people. I think Instagram and social media really encourage engagement. So take the time to engage and follow these people. You also sort of get to see how that stuff reposts. I also think I shared this hack a little bit before. So, pardon me if I said this previously, but one thing I noticed was there were a lot of interior designers using the same photographer over and over again. So I was like, okay, cool. And all of these interior designers follow this photographer. So what I decided to do was hire this photographer to photograph a bunch of our pieces, some of our work. Guess what happened? As soon as she started doing it, she was tagged in posts. Those interior designers who followed her then started following us, then started reaching out about more about pieces and all of that sort of stuff. So finding different ways to hack the system there, like seeing who they follow, figuring out how to make connections. And I think it's a lot about figuring out how you get discovered, how you make them feel like they discovered you. That's sort of a trick that I learned in the music business. Especially when we were trying to get a record label, and I was trying to get my other artists a record label. It was get signed. It was important to make it feel like the A&Rs discovered you, even though you really knew who they were the whole time, and you kind of planted the seeds. So I hope that helps a little bit with answering your question. I think the big part of it is engagement. It's not just who you're following, but it's how you're using it and who you're communicating with. All right, next question. All right. Hey, Paul, curious how you think about projects that are cool, but probably not very profitable. Been there. I got asked to build something pretty unique, and it was honestly look amazing in my portfolio, but when I ran the numbers, it's not really a great job financially. Do you ever take projects like that for the exposure or the portfolio, or is that usually a mistake? This is a tough question because another maker person who's been doing this for a long time that I follow and I talk to he's a mentor in a way. I was hanging out with him a while ago, and I was just like, yeah, we're working on this project that's cool. And he was just like, dude, he's like, man, I gotta be honest with you, like that's kind of the mistake. Like if you're feeling something so passionately that you need to do it and it feels so cool to you to do it, you're likely gonna underbid it. So he always prices with his head, not his heart. To me, that's can be kind of lame because I think that that's the best way to really grow the business and maximize it. Of course, we do cool projects, but you also need to care about profitability. So I think it depends on cutting your losses where you can. One thing I've learned from doing this over and over again is never do something for the exposure. I learned that, again, to reference the music business again. I learned that in the music business, and I also learned that here. Hey, if you build, so for example, we did a bunch of pieces for this brewery in Colts Neck, which is a really cool place. I mean, it's like where Bruce Springsteen lives. It's a very popular sort of brewery. And he was like, hey, if you could do this stuff at a discount, we'll put your logo on it. We'll put your name on all the furniture pieces, and you're going to get tons of business. This was probably, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Yeah, 5 or 6 years ago. And at the time I was like, oh my God, this is genius. Why not? Like, why not do that? I'm going to get so much business. Guess what? I've never once had a single person reference that job to come to me. So I've learned never sell yourself short for that. If it's a piece that's for a reference, for a portfolio piece, for you to be like, hey, we did this. This is really cool. I think it's worth it. And you're going to use it as a learning experience. The thing is, you need to be careful not to fill your queue with these things. If you have other profitable projects in there, I think it's fine to sprinkle in one of these every now and then, but you really need to be careful with what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to end up getting sucked down that rabbit hole of, and this is actually one of the other questions that I got to, so we'll talk about that, the fourth question, and we'll talk about that a little further down. So you just need to be careful with when you're doing it, how you're doing it, how often you're doing it, but I do think it's important to really stretch your boundaries and kind of get out of your comfort zone a little bit, just so you can see what you're capable of doing as well as show others what you're capable of doing. The other thing too I wanted to share is there have been times where we've done projects that were like, oh my God, this is so cool, but we just decided to not post any photos of it anyways because I was like, that was just so unprofitable. There's like, I don't want to make another one of them. Like, we did it and it was cool, but I don't want to be involved in that anymore. So there's like that game as well. So it's kind of picking and choosing. Like I said, if you've had a great month of really profitable projects, or you have a whole series of profitable projects and this is one of them, fine. Just know it's going to be a little bit of a loss leader. If you say, hey, this is a piece that could potentially become a collection piece, which we're going to talk about In question 4, if this becomes like sort of a collection piece, then sure, it might be worth it to go down that road. But it's definitely a tough spot to be. You can either go with my buddy Wayne and be like, hey, if this feels cool, I'm not going to even bid it. Or you could kind of go the other way where it's like, everything I do is only cool. That's probably going to be the problem. So I think there's kind of that middle ground within that spectrum. I really believe in gray space. I don't really believe in black and whites or absolutes. So I think trying to find somewhere in the middle is a great place to be. All right, next question. I've been thinking about hiring another maker because I'm pretty maxed out, but one thing I'm nervous about is maintaining the quality of the pieces. Right now, everything goes through me, and I know the standard is where I want it. For shops that have multiple builders, how do you keep everything consistent so the customer still feels it's coming from one shop? So you have to set different standards. So at Philadelphia Table Company, we have a specific standards. We have like a checklist sheet of what's acceptable versus what's not acceptable. And it's kind of hard because when you're building furniture, some of this stuff is a little bit sort of like wabi-sabi, or like it's art in a way. So it's like the feel of it can kind of change and morph. But what you need to do is you really need to get sort of like set standards. Like, hey, do you feel any rough spots? Is this sheen up to the standard that I'm used to? So it's really helpful to guide people through that and sort of show, hey, this is what's acceptable. This is what's not acceptable. So for a long time, I was the one doing it. Actually, I probably have the lowest quality control over everybody else on my team. Now other people in the shop do the quality control, my foreman and others, my operations person and my designer. Like, everyone's capable of doing this sort of checklist. We have a checklist that you have to go through that you sign off on. So I think that's another big part of it as like you're growing, is you need to create like a system like that. So before any one of our pieces is shipped, we have a pretty long, I think it has like 8 different checkboxes. Hey, does it feel smooth? Do the mechanicals work? Is it the finish up to our standard? And then it has even things where it's like, is the bottom branded and signed? Is it feel level? Does it rack? Like all of these sort of questions that you can write down. And that allows you to have sort of a metric to judge things on, like you would judge like in school, like a paper or something, like, did it complete all these different things? If it doesn't pass the inspection, we actually put like hey, did not pass? There's a notes section, and then operations person or foreman or somebody will write on the bottom, this did not pass because there was a rough spot on the side. They give it back to the maker, the maker then needs to fix it. So what I think you need to start doing is, as you bring people on, is create a list of what are the non-negotiables, what are the things that are really important to you, whether that be the way it feels or the way it looks, the way the paint looks, comes out, all kinds of different things, the mechanicals, all of that stuff. Every shop's going to have different standards. Every shop's going to have like different concepts of like what's good enough, because sometimes it really is a matter of like being good enough and not necessarily 100% perfect, because 100% perfect can sometimes really, really bite you in the butt when, you can't let good enough get in the way. You can't let perfect get in the way of like great enough. That's kind of what I like to say, because sometimes you could just keep nursing these things until it's absolutely perfect. And that could kind of be big trouble too. So I would write down what the non-negotiables are. What are the things that really matter to you? Make sure that's on a list, and you do the checklist. And you can start doing it with yourself now before you start bringing people on, so you know exactly what that's about. All right, question 4. Something I've been struggling with is efficiency in the shop. We do mostly custom work, just like I do, which is great, but every project ends up being different, and it's hard to get any sort of rhythm going. Do you have any advice for keeping things efficient while still doing custom furniture? This is the big complex one. This is the thing that's sort of at the gut, hits me in the gut, because it's what we're starting to work through now at Philadelphia Table Company. This past week, we had a really huge, we call it our global meeting, where we had the heads of the department. We met in the office, had a marker board. We wrote out the life cycle of a Philadelphia Table Company piece. Every piece, and we wrote out all the different versions of it. So we have a collection items, we have custom stuff, we have interior designer, we have whatever. So commercial, each one of those has like its own sort of project flow of like designs, sending samples, going in, ordering materials, going into production. And it became very obvious and very clear to me that the web was most complex on those custom orders. So what we're actually starting to do is, I think the core of what our business is, and I talk about this a lot, the moat we've built is the fact that we do custom and can do custom. But what we're trying to do now is shift gears a little bit. And we had talked all about all this in the group in our global meeting, where I was just like, hey guys, like we need to figure something out here in order to be more efficient, to not get bogged down by these custom things. And I'll talk about how to do the custom stuff efficiently, because we have a decent system there, but it's just like not as good, and it starts to just like bind up a little bit. So what we're starting to do now is develop more and more collection pieces, just because we have the name and reputation to be able to do this. I think starting as a custom shop is really helpful with getting people in the door, getting people being like your own niche, making sure that you have loyal customer base, and like getting your name out there, as well as using those custom pieces to develop a furniture line or a specific set of things. So if you do cabinets or whatever, maybe it's like figuring out what your base cabinet situation is, all of that stuff. It's a really great way to get customers in the door. With that said, the collection pieces are really the most efficient way to do it, because what you're doing is you have the design's already done. Maybe you have pre-selected finishes. You have jigs and things already made. And, you know, one of the makers could just be like, oh, I'm making another Williams table, or I'm making another Devon table. So coming up with those, I think, is really helpful. Now, what I've done before this previously and still currently is to scale custom is really about having really tight systems. So we use Trello, making sure all of the information is into each individual card, and kind of trying to figure out what sort of things can be like less custom. So for us, I talk about this a lot for you woodworkers out there. Like as an example is we get our lumber S4S. If we were also milling our lumber and making custom stuff, it's just you have to find certain things to streamline. So those are the things that that's the one of the things we started to streamline, as well as a few other things as well. Like we streamlined our finishes library, just so we can have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to the custom world of things. But a big part of making custom work is we treat each project like an individual project. So each maker makes that. We do that and then on Mondays, they give us their sort of like breakdown of when they are, like what their production schedule looks like, who's working on what and when. It's just a lot of logistics, but it really comes down to organized systems. If you could come up with organized systems and charge a lot for it, then I think going custom is good and can effectively be grown. But like I said, if you're in the early days, the custom work really just kind of helps round out those collection pieces, helps you establish your name, as well as like create a brand out there. And that's something that we became known for. Even companies like Thomas Moser started out that way as well. So I recommend doing that, but also starting to think, hey, what are the collection pieces that we can do? Because I was even looking back previously, and I was just like, hey, some of the bulk of our revenue historically, even though I'm saying a lot of it's custom, has been individual particular pieces that we've sold for chunks of time. Like we have one table now that's been really popular for a really long time that's starting to taper a little bit as another one's starting to pick up. And then we had an overlap probably like 2022 or something like that. We had another table that was really popular as well. So going through those sorts of things, I sort of start to saw that some of the more profitable ones are things that we've like kind of pre-designed and we're able to do routinely, as well as able to say the project by name, or the table by name. Hey, the Devon table, the Williams table, the whatever. So that's my long-winded answer on that. I'm always down to talk about that and more, because I'm, like I say with this podcast and with everybody in the group, I'm doing this in real time with you guys. Sometimes this is a little bit of like a live journal for me to like unload and talk about the struggles and things that I'm learning, so you guys don't make the same mistakes and you guys could continue to grow from there. So I don't have all the answers. I'm figuring it all out too. I'm just letting you know the things that have worked for me and seem to be working for other people. All right, guys, hope this episode was helpful. Again, if you're interested in joining the community, if you're interested in joining the network, click the link below in the show notes. And if you have any other questions you'd like to submit for office hours, please send me an email, paul@thehandcraftednetwork.com. I look forward to connecting with all of you guys. Have a good one. Peace.